If your coin says 1987, you may be holding one of those little pieces of history that people often overlook simply because of its tiny denomination. And before we go any further, if you enjoy discovering the stories, history, and possible value hidden inside old coins, take a second to subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications too, because you never know which ordinary-looking coin we are going to examine next. Now let's talk about the South African 1 cent from 1987. At first glance, there is nothing particularly spectacular about it. It is small, bronze-colored, and easy to mistake for just another piece of old change. But coins like this can tell us much more than their face value suggests. The 1987 South African 1 cent belongs to the circulation coinage of the South African Republic. It was made from bronze, with a composition of approximately 95% copper, 4.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. The coin weighs about 3 grams and measures roughly 19 millimeters across. And that little piece of metal carries a design that many collectors will immediately recognize. On one side is the South African coat of arms, surrounded by the bilingual inscription associated with the period. On the other side is the denomination 1 cent, accompanied by the Cape sparrows. That tiny bird design is one of the details that makes this coin especially interesting to collectors who enjoy the older South African decimal series. But here is where things get interesting. How many of these 1987 coins were actually made? The reported mintage for the regular 1987 issue is around 120.674 million pieces. That is a huge number. So if you have one sitting in an old collection, a family box, a drawer, or perhaps an envelope that has been untouched for decades, the first thing you should understand is this: being old does not automatically make a coin extremely rare. And that is one of the biggest mistakes people make when looking through inherited coins. A coin can be 40 years old and still be relatively common. What matters is the combination of date, variety, mintage, condition, demand, and whether the particular example has something unusual about it. And condition can make a surprisingly big difference. Imagine two 1987 1 cent coins sitting side by side. The first one has been circulating for years. The surfaces are scratched. The lettering is worn. The bird on the reverse has lost some of its sharpness. The edges show signs of handling, and the original bronze appearance has changed with age. The second coin has been protected almost its entire life. The details are crisp. The lettering is sharp. The surfaces are clean and attractive, with very little evidence of circulation. They may have the exact same date. They may have come from the same mint. They may look almost identical at first, but collectors can view them very differently. That is why you should never judge the value of an old coin simply by looking at the year. And there is another important detail. The 1987 issue also appears in proof-related collecting records, with a much smaller reported number associated with proof examples. That is very different from the ordinary circulation coin that most people are likely to find in an old collection. So if someone tells you that every 1987 South African 1 cent is rare, be careful. And if someone tells you that every one of them is worthless, be careful about that too. The truth is usually somewhere in between. For ordinary examples, published collector references show values that are generally measured in cents rather than enormous sums, with condition affecting the estimate. One current catalog reference lists the regular 1987 coin at only modest amounts across grades. So why are some videos claiming unbelievable prices? This is where you need to pay attention. You may have heard a headline saying that a 1987 South African 1 cent coin could be worth millions. Maybe you have even heard a figure that sounds almost impossible. One of the most dramatic numbers circulating in this kind of coin content world is $110 million. Yes, $110 million. That sounds like a life-changing discovery. It sounds like someone could reach into an old box of coins, pull out a tiny bronze cent, and suddenly become one of the wealthiest collectors on the planet. But here is the reality. There is no credible evidence that an ordinary 1987 South African 1 cent coin has a market value of $110 million. So if you have this coin, do not assume you have found a $110 million treasure simply because you saw that number in a video or online headline. The real treasure may be something different. It may be the history. Think about where this little coin has been. It was produced in the late 1980s. Someone may have carried it in a pocket. Someone may have received it as change. It may have sat in a shopkeeper's cash drawer. It may have traveled from one household to another. And eventually, decades later, it may have ended up in your collection. That is what makes old coins fascinating. They are small objects, but they can connect us to an earlier period of everyday life. And if you are checking your own 1987 coin, there are several things you should examine carefully. Look at the date. Look at the coat of arms. Look at the lettering. Look at the bird design. Check the edges. Look for unusual striking characteristics. Look for obvious damage, but also be careful not to clean the coin. That last point is extremely important. Many people see an old dark or dirty coin and immediately think, I need to make this shiny. Please don't. Cleaning can remove the original surface and reduce collector appeal. A naturally aged coin can be far more desirable than a coin that has been aggressively polished. Instead, handle it carefully and compare it with known examples. If your coin appears unusually sharp, unusually well preserved, or different from the standard circulation pieces, that is when further research may be worthwhile. And if you inherited a collection from a parent, grandparent, or another family member, don't throw the smaller coins aside. Sometimes the most interesting pieces are not the largest ones. The lesson from the 1987 South African 1 cent is simple. A coin's value is not determined by its age alone. It is not determined by a sensational headline. And it certainly is not determined by the biggest number someone puts in a video title. Real value comes from evidence. Condition matters. Rarity matters. Varieties matter. Authenticity matters. And actual collector demand matters. So, how much is your ordinary 1987 South African 1 cent really worth? For most examples, don't expect anything remotely close to a fortune. Published reference values are generally modest, and the exact amount depends heavily on condition and the specific version of the coin. But now comes the number you've been waiting for. Could this little 1987 coin really be worth $110 million? The answer is no, not as an ordinary coin based on the available evidence. The $110 million figure makes a great headline, but it should not be treated as a genuine market valuation. And honestly, that is what makes this coin more interesting. Because the real question isn't, did I just find $110 million? The real question is, what exactly is the coin in my hand? Is it a normal circulation example? Is it an unusually well-preserved piece? Is it a proof? Does it have an unusual error or variety? And could it have a story that makes it more interesting to collectors? So before you spend another minute ignoring that old 1987 South African 1 cent, take another look. Check the date. Check the details. Protect the surface. And most importantly, don't believe an extraordinary price without extraordinary evidence. That tiny bronze coin may not make you a millionaire, but it could still be a fascinating piece of South African history sitting right in your collection. And if you have a 1987 1 cent coin, tell me in the comments what condition yours is in and whether it has any unusual features. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to this channel because today we are looking at a coin that has been sitting quietly in collections, drawers, and old boxes for decades. A small piece of metal that many people may have ignored could hold a fascinating story from the past. If you love rare coins, hidden treasures, and the history behind everyday money, then stay with me until the end because you will not want to miss the final value discussion. Imagine finding an old coin inside a forgotten collection, a family box, or even an old wallet. At first glance, it may look like just a simple 1 cent coin. But every coin carries a journey. It was touched by thousands of hands, used in daily life, and became a small part of history. Today, we are exploring the 1 cent coin from South Africa dated 1985, a coin that has attracted attention from collectors and treasure hunters around the world. The 1985 South Africa 1 center coin represents an important period in the country's coinage history. During this era, South African coins were produced for everyday circulation, and millions of people use them for ordinary purchases. A coin like this may seem common, but collectors know that the real story of a coin is not always about how many were made. Sometimes the condition, unusual features, mistakes during production, or a special discovery can change everything. Many experienced collectors look beyond the date printed on a coin. They carefully study the design, the metal quality, the sharpness of the details, and the overall condition. A coin kept in perfect condition for many years can become much more interesting than one that has been heavily circulated. Small differences can create big excitement in the collecting world. The South African 1-cent coin from 1985 features the classic design elements that represent the nation's identity during that time. The coin is a reminder of a different era, when cash was used for everyday transactions and coins played a much bigger role in people's daily lives. For older collectors, especially those who remember using these coins, it can bring back memories of shops, markets, and everyday moments from decades ago. But what makes a coin truly valuable? The answer is not always simple. Age alone does not guarantee a high price. A coin from hundreds of years ago can sometimes be worth less than a modern coin with a rare mistake. Collectors search for coins with special characteristics, including unusual markings, limited production numbers, exceptional condition, or a unique history. The biggest coin discoveries often happen when people least expect them. Someone cleaning an old house, checking a family collection, or organizing forgotten items may discover something that has been overlooked for years. This is why many collectors always say, never judge a coin only by its appearance. Even a small coin can deserve a closer look. For a 1985 South Africa 1-cent coin, collectors would normally examine important details such as the exact condition, whether there are any errors, and whether it has been professionally graded. A worn coin used in daily circulation may have only a small collector value, while a rare example with special qualities could attract much more attention. The excitement of coin collecting comes from the possibility of discovery. Every coin has a story, and every collector hopes to find that one special piece that stands out from the rest. The thrill is not only about money. It is about history, curiosity, and owning a small piece of the past. Many people who are new to collecting make the mistake of keeping only old-looking coins. But smart collectors understand that knowledge is the real treasure. Learning about dates, designs, minting processes, and rare variations can help anyone recognize coins that deserve attention.
Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. If you love rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable discoveries that could be sitting unnoticed in old collections, you won't want to miss what we have coming next. Imagine reaching into an old drawer, opening a forgotten box, or sorting through a collection that has not been touched in decades. Among ordinary coins that most people would ignore, there may be one small piece of metal with a story powerful enough to capture the attention of collectors around the world. Today, we are looking at a coin that often goes unnoticed at first glance, yet it has become the subject of fascination, debate, and excitement among coin enthusiasts. The coin is the 1982 South African 1-center. At first, it appears simple, small, humble, and easy to overlook. Many people have probably handled one without giving it a second thought. It does not shine like gold. It does not look luxurious. It does not immediately suggest wealth or rarity. Yet experienced collectors know that some of the most remarkable treasures in numismatics are hidden behind ordinary appearances. The story begins in South Africa during a period of economic and political change. Coins were an important part of everyday life, moving from hand to hand through markets, shops, and communities. Millions of people used them without imagining that decades later collectors would study certain dates and varieties with incredible attention. The 1982 1-cent became particularly interesting because collectors started examining production details, preservation quality, and unusual characteristics that could separate an ordinary coin from an extraordinary one. In the world of coin collecting, tiny differences can mean everything. A small minting variation, a rare production error, or a coin preserved in exceptional condition can completely transform how collectors view it. This is where the excitement begins. Most people think all coins from the same year are identical. Collectors know better. They search for details invisible to the casual observer. They inspect lettering, edges, surfaces, strike quality, and every tiny feature created during the minting process. Sometimes a coin that looks ordinary to one person becomes highly desirable to another because of a characteristic that only trained eyes can recognize. The 1982 South African 1 center has attracted attention because examples in remarkable condition are becoming increasingly difficult to find. Think about how many coins spend years in circulation. They are dropped, scratched, carried in pockets, exposed to moisture, and handled thousands of times. After decades, finding a specimen that still retains exceptional quality becomes a significant challenge. Collectors often compete fiercely for coins that appear almost untouched by time. The closer a coin remains to its original mint condition, the more desirable it can become. This is one reason why older coins preserved carefully over many years can generate enormous interest whenever they appear at auctions or private sales. But condition is only part of the story. The true thrill comes from the possibility of discovering something unusual. Coin collectors love mysteries. They love unexpected findings. Throughout numismatic history, coins with production errors have captured headlines and achieved astonishing values. A misalignment, a striking mistake, or another uncommon feature can turn an everyday coin into a collector's dream. That possibility keeps enthusiasts searching through old collections, inherited boxes, estate sales, and forgotten containers stored in garages and attics. Every coin has the potential to tell a different story. Every date has the potential to reveal a surprise. For many older collectors, the appeal goes beyond money. Coins are pieces of history that fit in the palm of your hand. They connect us to a specific time and place. They remind us of daily life in another era. When someone holds a 1982 South African 1 center, they are holding an object that has survived decades of change and traveled through countless hands before arriving in the present day. That historical connection creates a powerful emotional response. Collectors are not simply buying metal. They are preserving stories. They are protecting artifacts that represent a chapter of human history. That is why certain coins continue attracting passionate interest year after year. There is also the excitement of the hunt. Few hobbies offer the same combination of history, research, discovery, and possibility. One moment you may be looking through a group of ordinary coins. The next moment you could uncover something that changes everything. That sense of anticipation keeps collectors engaged for a lifetime. The 1982 South African 1 center remains a fascinating example of how an everyday object can develop a remarkable reputation among enthusiasts. Whether someone is an experienced collector or just beginning their journey, this coin serves as a reminder that value is often hidden beneath the surface. What appears insignificant today may become highly sought after tomorrow. So if you come across old South African coins, do not dismiss them too quickly. Examine them carefully. Study the details. Look for unusual features. Check the condition. Research the history. You never know what might be waiting inside a forgotten collection. And now for the moment everyone has been waiting for. Among collectors and treasure hunters, stories continue to circulate about exceptionally rare examples that could command extraordinary attention if the right combination of rarity, condition, and unique characteristics were ever discovered. In the most dramatic discussions surrounding this coin, some enthusiasts have imagined values reaching as high as $29 million for a truly one-of-a-kind specimen with extraordinary significance. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on treasures hidden in plain sight. You won't want to miss what we are uncovering today. Picture this: a small, seemingly ordinary coin sitting quietly in a drawer, overlooked for decades, yet holding a secret that could change everything. You've probably held coins in your hand and tossed them into a jar without a second thought. But not all coins are just metal. Some carry history, stories, and a value that can astonish even the most seasoned collectors. Today, we are going back to 1984, to a coin from South Africa that most people ignore, yet few could imagine the fortune it represents today. Now, imagine the world in 1984. It was a time of big hair, vinyl records, and the unmistakable sound of classic rock filling the airwaves. South Africa was a nation navigating complicated times, yet everyday life still had moments of simplicity, like slipping a coin into a slot machine, paying for a newspaper, or adding to a collection without even knowing it might one day be worth more than your imagination. Among the coins minted that year, there was one that stood out, not for its size, nor its shine, but for a subtle peculiarity that made it extremely rare. This isn't just another 1-cent coin. It's a piece of history. Most people see 1 cent and think, it's nothing, just a penny. But this coin is not your ordinary penny. It tells a story of design, of careful minting, and of a rare mistake, or sometimes, a perfectly executed rarity that collectors dream about. Coins like this don't come around often. They are the ones that can transform a collection from average to extraordinary. You might be wondering, what makes a coin like this so special? Well, rarity is one thing. Many coins were minted in 1984, yes, but a tiny number of them were produced with a certain detail, sometimes an extra line, sometimes a missing mint mark, that makes them incredibly valuable to collectors. People who understand this world know that coins with these anomalies can quietly sit in a drawer for years, unnoticed, only to surface decades later and fetch astonishing sums, and the stories collectors tell, they're incredible. Some bought coins thinking they were worthless, tucked them away in albums, and only years later realized they held something far more valuable than cash in the bank. It's not just about money, it's about owning a tangible piece of history. The feel of the metal, the small imperfections, the story of the country at that moment, all of it wrapped up in one tiny coin. For men in our age group, there's something satisfying about uncovering hidden value, about knowing you're holding something others overlook. We've spent years perfecting our instincts, understanding history, and recognizing quality when we see it. A coin like this taps into that instinct. It's a bridge between your past experiences and a potentially life-changing discovery today. And it's not just the rarity that counts, it's the narrative behind the coin. In 1984, South Africa's mint produced coins in massive quantities, but this particular 1 cent is part of a very small batch that collectors call the Holy Grail. Its design is simple, almost humble, but that's precisely what makes it so alluring. The coin's unassuming appearance masks a story of craftsmanship, scarcity, and intrigue. Now, imagine sitting at home, opening an old drawer, and finding this coin nestled among your change. No flashy packaging, no announcement, just the weight of history in your hand. It's thrilling, even for those who've never collected coins before. And the best part? You're not alone. Thousands of collectors around the world share that same rush, the excitement of realizing that something dismissed as ordinary holds extraordinary potential, but it's also a reminder of patience and perspective. Most people think value is immediate. You earn it, you spend it, you move on. But coins like this reward those who wait, who understand history, and who can see beyond the surface. They are a testament to the idea that sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones that require a little time, a little knowledge, and a lot of curiosity. For the 55 to 65 plus men watching, there's a sense of nostalgia here too. Many of us remember the coins in our pockets as kids, the thrill of saving change, the satisfaction of watching a collection grow. This coin bridges that nostalgia with real-world potential. It's more than a piece of metal, it's a story, a challenge, and, for some, a key to remarkable financial opportunity, and here's where it gets truly astonishing. After decades of obscurity, these 1984 South African 1 cent coins have surfaced in auctions and private sales. Collectors who recognize their rarity have seen offers that defy imagination. People who casually tucked one into a drawer years ago are now discovering that what seemed insignificant could command astonishing sums. We are talking about numbers that would make anyone take notice. And not just hundreds or thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands. And in some extreme cases, believe it or not, the value has soared to almost $8 million for a single coin in pristine condition. Yes, $8 million for what most would toss into a jar without a second thought. That's the power of rarity, history, and perspective combined. So, the next time you look at a coin, remember, value isn't always obvious. It doesn't shout. Sometimes, it waits quietly in a drawer, hoping for someone with the knowledge, the curiosity, and the vision to uncover its story. This 1984 South African 1 cent coin is one of those rare treasures, a reminder that history, patience, and a little bit of luck can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. If you've enjoyed this journey into hidden wealth and history, don't forget to subscribe. There's so much more waiting to be uncovered, and who knows? The next incredible discovery could be right in your own collection. And finally, remember the coin we talked about, the 1984 South African 1 cent? Its current value, for the rarest and most perfect examples, has reached an astonishing $8 million. A small, humble coin transformed into a legendary treasure. It's a story that reminds us, sometimes the smallest things can have the greatest impact.
Welcome to Rent to Riches, your trusted gateway into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and forgotten currency history. From ancient empires to modern rarities, we uncover the stories, values, and secrets behind some of the world's most remarkable coins. Whether you're a collector, a history lover, or simply curious, we bring you well-researched insights, real coin values, and expert commentary you won't find anywhere else. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because every coin has a story, and Coinazy Pulse is here to tell it. You may not immediately realize that a single small coin can carry within it the echoes of a nation's history, its politics, its culture, and the very spirit of times long past. But the 1989 South African 1 cent coin is one such artifact, modest in appearance, yet loaded with story and symbolism. Let me take you on a journey through its life, its meaning, and why it can stir passion among collectors. Picture the year 1989, South Africa was on the cusp of transformation. Though apartheid was still in place, the winds of change were stirring. In this world, day-to-day commerce still used coins like the 1 cent, the less glamorous but indispensable parts of currency. It was minted in bronze, composed of a mixture of copper, tin and a little zinc. Munstuck International Coins +2 online coin.club +2. This version of the 1 cent had been produced since 1965 in the bronze form, replacing earlier versions. Online coin.club +1. When you hold this coin, its modest diameter of about 19.05 mm and weight of 3 grams might not impress at first glance, but that simplicity belies the depth beneath. Munstuck International Coins +2 online coin.club +2. On one side, the obverse, you see the South African coat of arms as it stood then. Around it, in both English and Afrikaans, the words SUID Afrika and South Africa, and the date 1989. Beneath the arms are initials PLS, indicating Arthur Sutherland, designer of the obverse. Online coin.club +2 Munstuck International Coins +2. Flip it over, and the reverse reveals a quiet but elegant scene, 2 Cape sparrows perched on a branch. Above, the denomination 1C in plain relief. Below, you'll find tiny initials TS for Tommy Sassin, the reverse designer. Online coin.club +2 Munstuck International Coins +2. The birds are not grand or dramatic, they are simple, everyday creatures, yet their presence feels poetic, as though they whisper the passage of common life. What makes the 1989 coin especially interesting is that it was the final year for that style of 1 cent in bronze. After that, changes were made, smaller coins, later copper-plated steel issues, shifts in design. Online coin.club +2 and .faronum.com +2. Thus, this coin stands as a closing chapter of a particular era. In fact, the mint records show that about 337.8 million of these bronze 1C coins were struck. Last Dodo +3 online coin.club +3 Munstuck International Coins +3. Because of such high mintage, as a circulated coin its rarity is not high, but condition, originality, and aesthetic appeal can make a big difference. Now imagine a collector's perspective. You acquire a specimen with sharp detail, minimal wear, deep original toning. The arms lines are crisp, the sparrow's feathers still defined, the feels relatively smooth. That coin feels like a time capsule. You might reflect on the contrast between that fragile moment and the historical forces swirling around it, social change, political tension, the closing years of a system under pressure. You might pause and think about the symbolism of the 2 sparrows. Though humble, they endure. In a way, they mirror ordinary citizens living through times of complexity, taking root in daily life even while larger currents shift around them. They remind us that history, in the end, is made up of many small moments lived by countless everyday people. You might also consider the coat of arms side, a shield divided into quarters showing symbols for the provinces, an ox wagon, a tree, the crown, the supporters, the animal figure standing guard. That coat of arms attempts to convey unity, identity, heritage, authority. Its presence on a common small coin is a reminder. Even the smallest denominations carry the symbolic weight of the state and its narrative. Over time, that coin leaves circulation. It slips into jars, drawers, wallets that are forgotten. It travels across borders, perhaps picked up by someone in another country, drawn by curiosity. It becomes a collectible, a piece of numismatic interest rather than mere pocket change. As decades pass, its value shifts, not because of its face value, but due to how collectors perceive it, how many survive in good condition, and how much its story resonates. Collectors might compare multiple specimens, which has better surfaces, which shows full mint luster still preserved, which has avoided damage or abrasions. The coin with more original features, fewer strikes against it, more pleasing toning or patina, that one commands attention. Some may find examples in proof or uncirculated states, those carry appeal. Occasionally, one may spot a stray variety or minor striking difference, those would be even more prized by specialists. In presenting this coin to an audience, one might narrate its journey from mint to pocket, to drawer, to collector's album. You talk about its material, its weight, its designers, the context of South Africa in 1989, the fact that it was the last year of that coin style, the large total mintage but limited survival in pristine condition, and the aesthetic pleasure of a beautifully preserved example. You might share close-up photos to show detail in the coat of arms and the sparrows. You might mention stories of collectors who fell in love with its quiet charm. In doing so, you help your audience feel that the coin is more than a disc of metal, it's a fragment of time, a whisper across decades. Then, at the end, when someone hears the number, they're struck by the contrast. How something so humble, once worth only 1 cent in everyday commerce, can be coveted, studied, and prized. A remarkable example of this coin in superb condition was recently listed at $6,650.